Close sports bolster quick breaks down the never-ending soap opera that is the NBA. USA Today Sports. Chris Paul had plenty of distractions from his mental misery on Saturday. There was practice with his Houston Rockets in the morning, with Paul getting another step closer to returning from the left knee injury that has sidelined him since October the 17th. There was a charity event that followed, a feel-good affair in which the focus was rebuilding two middle schools that were damaged in Hurricane Harvey. And there were Paul family soccer games to keep track of remotely, with his 8-year-old son, Lil Chris, in one and 5-year-old daughter, Cameron, in the other. If only for a day. In other words, the 32-year-old who shocked the NBA world by leaving Los Angeles and heading for Houston last summer had a mental break from what has been a brutal start to his Rockets tenure. Basketball is a huge part of my life, and I don't get to do that, Paul, who was promoting a new State Farm commercial that debuts on Wednesday, told USA Today Sports by phone. We've actually been on the road a lot, so it's actually good to be home for a while. Just try to stay busy, and my wife tries to keep me sane. For competitors like Paul, who has long been compared to Kobe Bryant when it comes to the intensity of his hoops personality, the only thing more maddening than losing is not being able to play at all. But this absence is about more than that. As Paul and the Rockets were beginning a crucial stretch of learning together, this was supposed to be the early days of Paul playing alongside fellow co-star James Harden, with reigning Coach of the Year Mike D'Antoni trying to work his magic while they all learned how to coexist and coalesce. Instead, with Paul banging his knee in a preseason game on October 11th and learning the hard way in the regular season opener 6 days later that he's still wasn't right, they'll have to settle for a secondary fast break of sorts. It's going to set us back, no doubt about it. D'Antoni, whose team entered Sunday's game against Utah with a 73 record, told USA Today Sports by phone, "There's going to be a learning curve. The TIMELINEA's Paul and D'Antoni see it. The 9-time All-Star will likely return at some point in the next 2 weeks. He has made key progress in the past week, having gone from the boxing and water treadmill routine that helps maintain his win to the kinds of on-court activities that typically precede a return. He's probably right," Paul said about D'Antoni's recent proclamation that he was approximately 2 weeks away. More LeBron James offensive eruption masks Cavaliers league worst defense more Celtics Kyrie Irving was craving an intellectual mind, like Brad Stevens said. D'Antoni now HES getting back on the floor, where HES now shooting foul shots. Shooting a little bit. He's been working his butt off. He's been boxing all the time, and doing stuff with water, running in the water, and treading water and all that. He's going to be in shape, and HES trying to take his anxiety and frustration out on working out. But it's normal stuff. It's only unique because he just got here, and we have all this going on. By this, of course, he means the process of forming a team that can unseat the Golden State Warriors as NBA champs 7 months from now. The launch mission of all the blockbuster moves that took place during the off-season, this was the one that made the coaching types the most curious. In Harden, the Rockets had an MVP-caliber player who shifted to the point guard position at the behest of D'Antoni last season and unleashed the best version of himself. In Paul, who forced a trade in late June by making it clear to the Clippers that he would opt out and sign with Houston in free agency if they didn't comply, they acquired a proud guard accustomed to pulling those point guard strings. There was an X-factor in this unexpected pairing, though, as both players were desperate for change. Houston Rockets guard Chris Paul 3 and James Harden 13 during the first half against the Memphis Grizzlies at FedEx Forum. Photo Nelson Chenousa Today Sports shared and learned during those second-round playoff struggles against San Antonio that his workload was simply too heavy. Paul, whose Clippers lost All-Star forward Blake Griffin yet again midway through their 7-game, first-round playoff loss to Utah, reached the same conclusion when his season came to an end. Doing less, they were both convinced, could mean a whole lot more. But even with the Rockets' fast start without Paul, and with Harden averaging 26.8 points, 9.4 rebounds and 4.6 assists entering Sunday, none of it advances their mission of making it work with these two at the top. From D'Antoni on down, they've done the next best thing to doing it. They've talked about it. D'Antoni said Paul has been vocal all along the way, sharing insights gained from 12 seasons of NBA action while trying to play the role of de facto assistant coach. This, like it or not, is the prolonged planning stage. The newest Rockets assistant Paul routinely pulls 23-year-old big man Clint Capella aside, painting a picture of how they'll make opponents pay when he returns. He pounds the point about their need to improve defensively, imploring them to become the kind of two-away team that can truly contend for a crown. The Rockets, who had the third best mark in the Western Conference last season at 5,527, were 18th in defensive rating. Houston Rockets guard Chris Paul III sits on the bench in street clothes against the Dallas Mavericks during the fourth quarter at Toyota Center. Photo Eric Williams Sousa Today Sportsway wants know really what we look like until I get back out there, Paul said. But man, I'm learning so much. I think the biggest thing that we talk about as a team is communication, so we're trying to make sure we continue to get better and better at that, especially on the defensive end. Coming from a different team, you talk about what was the perception of this team when you were at another team. People a lot of times don't think about that. You want to know, so you try to make sure that you can try to correct those things. We want to play up-tempo and all the different type of stuff, but it's no secret that the NBA champions for the past 6-7 years have all been top 10 in defense. D'Antoni, whose offense was second only to the Warriors last season, has entrusted that end of the floor to assistant coach Jeff Bzdelik since last season. But Paul's view on that topic and many more is being heard. He's seeing things where we can get better, what we need to do, D'Antoni said. A lot of his feedback is personnel-driven. He knows the league really well, and what works with guys. We talk about plays. We talk about everything. It's more or less, well, we can definitely do this, so you file that away. Or we can do that, or we need to pick our pace up, and to be able to do that, then we can do this. We just more or less talk. It's just a blending of personalities, with everybody getting to know everybody, especially him and the coaching staff, and vice versa. And it's just a process that we're trying to take advantage of. It's not ideal. It'd be better if he was playing, but it is what it is, and we'll just try to do the best we can with it. Follow USA Today Sports Sam Amick on Twitter at Sam Amick.